Sometimes you need someone to help. The National Suicide Prevention Lifeline is here. Answered locally by FirstLink, connecting you with resources of help and hope. Dial 1-800-273-8255 to get connected.
People have a need to belong. One of the factors that is a predictor for suicide behavior is when they don't experience feeling like they belong.
Year after year, we're constantly seeing more and more times where mental health is becoming a major issue in our community. The schools are telling us they're having the same issue, so it's something that we have to pay attention to. We have to find better ways to respond to.
It's the middle of the night when they've just had a breakup or a bad circumstance in their life. When people have that, when they have it in their minds that they have a plan where they can reach out to someone, where they can feel that sense of belonging. FirstLink offers that.
FirstLink is available 24 hours a day for people who need information about resources in the community, whether it is an immediate urgent need like mental health crisis or financial assistance. Anyone can call, no matter what their situation, no matter what they're dealing with, whether they are young or old. Everybody can call if they need help, and there's somebody here to listen.
I can think of one particular patient who over the course of a weekend called the FirstLink line 4 times. Each time she said she got off the phone, she felt a little bit more centered. She was reminded about why she needs to continue to be alive, why she wants to continue to stay in her treatment. Having that available on the weekends for this person likely saved this person's life.
We believe that everybody's life matters. It all starts with us just listening and helping that person feel like they do matter and that their story is important.
As we work together as a community to slow the spread of COVID-19, we know that social distancing can be confusing, isolating, and frightening, but you don't have to go through this alone. Call 211 to be connected to the resources and services you need. And if you're having thoughts of suicide, please call the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline at 1-800-273-8255. All calls are answered 24 hours a day, 7 days a week locally by FirstLink.
Thank you for joining us for the 12th Annual FirstLink Breakfast. Your support helps FirstLink provide help and hope across North Dakota and western Minnesota. And now, this morning's hosts, Cindy Miller and Jennifer Illick.
Good morning, everyone. We certainly didn't expect to be celebrating our 50 years of FirstLink Breakfast like this. I'm Cindy Miller, Executive Director at FirstLink.
I'm Jennifer Illick, the Director of Helpline Operations. But we are sure lucky that we have technology to be able to have coffee and donuts with you today. Cheers to that. We have an exciting event for you, and this would not be possible without our 2020 corporate sponsors. Altru, Bremer Bank, Dakota Medical Foundation, Essentia, MJ Capelli's, Prairie St. John's, Sanford, Towel, United Way Cast Clay, West Acres, and our event sponsors, Alaris and Cass County Electric.
Besides all of these great partners, we want to thank you. We wouldn't be here today without you and the volunteers who started the hotline, and thousands of other volunteers who have helped us distribute and collect gifts over the holidays, and those who have helped us answer phone calls 24 hours a day, and even during disasters like floods.
Let's not forget those who served on our board and legislators and various North Dakota departments who have helped us with funding, area foundations, and the staff that have manned our phone lines for over 50 years, and donors like all of you. Thank you. We look forward to 50 more years working beside you.
Our MC this morning is Jody Bach. She's a dynamic business communicator who who encourages people to practice riskful thinking as opposed to merely wishful thinking. Her podcast, Bach Talks, is subtitled Be It, Say It, Own It, where she focuses on leadership, communication, and accountability. She is also a certified life purpose and career coach and the author or co-author of 7 books. When she's not writing, coaching, or speaking, you can find Jody singing with City of the Lakes Chorus or keeping busy at the head scorekeeper at the NDSU men's and women's basketball games. Personally, I want to say her and her family were awesome next-door neighbors of mine in Lisbon, North Dakota, and she also volunteered at the FirstLink helpline back in her college days. I'm proud to welcome her, my friend, Jody Bach.
Hey everybody, I'm Jody Bach, and as you heard from Cindy, we were neighbors, and it's so fun to be part of this event because my relationship to FirstLink is quite a long one. In fact, I started volunteering at FirstLink before it was even named FirstLink. I got connected with them because I just felt like I wanted to give back, and to be honest, it was a relationship with the executive director at the time that got me involved, Mark Burdon, and I learned so much about myself because of that. I know it wasn't exactly what I had in mind. I thought I was going to be giving back to the community, and I did, I hope. And I was a volunteer for 3 years, but I learned so much about myself. I was an English major and a communications major at Concordia, and during that time I learned a lot about how to talk, how to speak, but I never learned how to listen. And the best training I ever got for myself was active listening training. Because if you consider being on a suicide or a crisis hotline, or even an informational hotline like FirstLink is, you have to listen because you don't have anything besides the listening skills that you learn. And so for me, that was so huge, and it was an added benefit I never even considered. Now let's take all of that selfishly that I learned about myself and now put that back to what that organization does for our community. It's just amazing to be part of that. And even so many years later, I'm not volunteering with them anymore. I'm just an advocate for them because of what they do in our community, how important it is for those services that they can provide, not just in crisis, but in resources. Man, if you could just take a look at that, well, at the time it was a binder. It was actually a 3-ring binder. And we had a chance to go through all of the resources that were available to this community then. And even now, I'm guessing it's many more resources that are available and maybe a lot easier to find. But take a look at FirstLink if you don't know it already. I'm guessing if you're here, you're familiar with FirstLink as an organization, but oh my goodness, I am so blessed to have been a part of that and now to be able to celebrate their 50th anniversary. So I look forward to introducing a really good friend of mine, Mr. Mark J. Lindquist. Mark, it's so good to see you, buddy.
Crowd goes wild, and we forget what it's like to be in front of crowds, so we miss it. Just start cheering.
Oh, it's so true. Mark, the first time I met you, you had really, really short hair. And right now, I mean, look at your hair. Will you take off your hat? Look at how long your hair is. And mine wasn't this gray when you first met me. What's up when we can't get our hair cut right now? It's driving me crazy.
No quarantine haircuts right now. What do we do, right?
I know. It's so good to see you. I love that we're able to do this even though we can't be in person right now, this minute. And that's what I really love about technology. Love and hate it. But it's so awesome for me to get to introduce you, my friends, to all my FirstLink friends, because Mark is a guy, when I first met him, he was somebody I wanted to get to know. I had heard about you, Mark, but I didn't know you. And I wanted to know who Mark Lindquist was. Mark Lindquist was. And I think I reached out to you and I said, I just need to know who you are. Because I just do that. And we became, I know, right? And we just became really good friends because we share a heart for service, I think. We're all about passion. We're all about connecting people and resources and things. And Mark is just a guy that once he gets in your heart, you can't get him out. And I am just so grateful that you're going to have a chance to hear from him right now. So Mark, take it away.
Thank you, my friend. I appreciate you. And FirstLink, thank you so much for bringing this to our community.
You know, I'm reminded of the words Charles Dickens wrote 161 years ago. It was the best of times. It was the worst of times, right? And 161 years later, it seems like those words still have some truth, right? I think it all depends on what you choose to focus on. I think we all need to be reminded that, yes, if it is the best of times and it is the worst of times, then people like FirstLink and organizations like FirstLink are concentrating on what might be the best of what we have to offer. What do we have to offer in a community but resources, but people? This is an organization called FirstLink that has those resources, and I will do everything I can to shout FirstLink's name from the rooftops. MyFirstLink.org, you got to go there. You got to tell your friends to get the resources there. You got to tell your friends if they need someone to reach out to, dial 211. We're here for FirstLink in celebrating their 50 years of service to our community. It deserves celebration. It deserves a moment like this. And so we put together a little talk for you, and hopefully it is of benefit to you. And so here we go. It's just story time, I guess. I was talking to a friend the other day and asking him, as he is 40 years my senior, I was asking him, have you ever seen anything like this before? Because, I think in 2020, for us not to reference or recognize that there is a global pandemic going on would be tone deaf. So I'm going to reference it. We're going to talk about it. And the thing that I've been able to most liken to this experience, or maybe try to get my footing or try to figure out what's going on in the world, is, of course, I've hearkened back to the days of 9/11. Because I'm 38 years old and I don't remember the pandemic of, 1916 or 18 or whatever it was. I remember 9/11. 9/11 was the John F. Kennedy assassination moment of my generation. 9/11 was that moment when the collective consciousness of the world was honed in on one thing, which was the terrorist attacks of September 11th of 2001. And I have a little bit of a unique perspective on that only because I was serving at the time in a program called AmeriCorps. AmeriCorps is like a domestic Peace Corps, an opportunity for young people ages 18 to 24 to serve their communities and their country. And so I had for the first time in my life, raised my right hand and pledged my abilities and my time to a wonderful program and cause that then led us to be certified with the American Red Cross, and then led us to be in the southern parking lot of the Pentagon in the days and weeks following 9/11, working with the American Red Cross National Capital Chapter. To have been somebody who felt the windows shake when the plane hit the Pentagon, to have been someone who saw the charred black walls of the western wall of the Pentagon, to have been someone who looked in the eyes of the emergency services workers as they walked from the rubble to the parking lot a little bit dazed, a little bit confused, maybe like America and the world is right now. I was 19 years old, maybe 20 years old at the time, I guess. I was a young kid. I'd never experienced anything like it, and many others could say the same. But having been there, and as a part of that, of course, that's a moment in my life that, much like all of us, defined much of our life. I signed up for the United States military because of my proximity to that tragedy. I felt like I needed to do something to serve. And isn't that part of the problem today? We all, Americans, global citizens, we feel like we want to do something to help, but we don't know what. I'll tell you what you can do. You can support an organization that's been around for 50 years, called FirstLink. I'll tell you what you can do. You can tell your friends who need the resources to go to myfirstlink.org. You can tell your friends to call 211. It's so simple. The resources are there. That's something you can do to help from where you are. Don't forget that after we leave quarantine. Remember, you can always access those resources. Those resources have been there, steadfast, for 50 years. I believe they'll be there for another 50 if we act today. You got to reach in your pocket and give what you can, because this is a resource for our community. I was sitting in the Eisenhower Executive Office building just off of the West Wing. Congressman John Lewis was in the room. I'm a young 20-year-old kid. You know, we were there because of our work and service with the Red Cross and AmeriCorps, and they were recognizing us for that work. And there were only a few of us in the room. Quite the honor it was. But Congressman John Lewis said this, and I have never forgotten these words. I do not imitate him to make fun. I imitate him because his candor and his voice, I'd listen to it all day. Congressman John Lewis sat at the table, as wise as could be, and he said, "For 2 weeks in September, 19 men stopped the world from turning. 19 men dedicated to a cause some would consider as evil. 19 men stopped the world from turning for 2 weeks in September." What if the people in this room, Congressman Lewis said, what if the people in this room could have the same dedication to good that they had to evil? And I have never forgotten those words. What if we dedicated ourselves to good in the same way that others might dedicate themselves to something not so good? I believe that we can. I believe that Americans are the type of people that have that spirit. Because let me tell you, when I was in the southern parking lot of the Pentagon in the days and weeks following 9/11, I looked into the eyes of firefighters who had driven their fire truck from Milwaukee and were now serving sandwiches and Gatorade to emergency workers and psychologists that were inside the wreckage. I talked to a firefighter from Santa Fe, New Mexico, who had flown there, taken his PTO, and he was volunteering at the Pentagon. I have looked into the eyes and seen the people who are demonstrating what Congressman Lewis said, dedicated to good to the same degree that others are dedicated to something less good. So I think that this is a call to all Americans, all community members, all residents of North Dakota, Minnesota, all 50 states, citizens of the world. I think it's a call for us all to dedicate ourselves to the greater good. What you can do is dedicate yourself to the mission of an organization like FirstLink. Because in a time where we don't know who to trust, in a time where we're being alerted about a scam or something that would trying to be profiting off of a tragedy or somebody who is overly opportunistic, you can trust FirstLink. You can trust them. Why? They've been there for 50 years, and they're only here to help. The services that FirstLink provides to community members are services that I myself have availed myself of, if I don't know if that's the right word. I've used these services, right? I've called 211 in my life. I have reached out to counselors. I have a therapist myself. I've sat on a couch with a therapist in Moorhead, Minnesota. I'm a person who understands that these things and these resources, that to ask for them and ask for help isn't weakness. To ask for help is the strongest thing you can do. It takes strength to do that, and I applaud you if you can. I hope you do. I hope everybody calls and reaches out to somebody, because I have not been able to figure out what to think about a global pandemic. I don't know what to think. I don't have a clue. So sometimes it's good to just talk it out. Sometimes it's good to just to express those feelings to another person who might not be judgmental. That person is on the other end of the line when you call 211. When you go to myfirstlink.org. These are the resources our community needs, because I believe that the spirit of America is strong, just like it was when those firefighters drove across the country to volunteer their time to do the right thing. Now, if we are still in quarantine when you see this, it seems like we can't do anything to help, right? Because I can't drive across the country and show up in New York City. You know what I'm saying. I could. But it's being recommended that we stay home. So I'll follow the recommendations of my leaders. But the thing you can do is you can reach out to somebody. You can give them a call. I got a text message from a guy I hadn't talked to for 3 years. I don't know. I didn't even know he had my number. But he said, "Hey, Mark, is this still your number?" I said, "Absolutely." He said, "I just wanted to see how you're doing." And then I cried for about 5 minutes. Because that's the spirit of America that I believe in. That's the spirit of America that I think is alive and well. I think the spirit of America that I want to see in the future is this. You see, as a military veteran myself, I served honorably in the Air Force for 6 years. I got to serve out at Hickam Air Force Base in Honolulu, Hawaii, because somebody's got to get stationed in Honolulu, and I said, fine, I'll do it, fine. But I was stationed there in Hickam in Honolulu, and I learned in our United States military that when you enter into a military unit, call it a squadron, call it a unit, a brigade, whatever you want. When you enter into a military unit, you're taught pretty much everything you need, the unit's going to take care of, right? A self-sufficient, self-sustaining military presence, that's what we're taught. If you need something, the unit will take care of you. I sometimes wonder why we haven't built something in society where after a military veteran transitions out into the civilian world, how come we don't offer that veteran the same support? Right? It seems like something that we should focus on as a society. It seems like if we're taking an 18-year-old and we're putting them in a system like a military veteran would be put in, and then is unleashed on civilian society 4, 6, or 8 years, or maybe 20 years later, then there should be some sort of support for those individuals who only know the support of a military unit. And the closest thing I've come up with that exists in our society that could replicate those services are organizations like FirstLink. Because as I peruse the website and go to myfirstlink.org, as I look at the things that are available to community members, I think, gosh, that's kind of what the military provided for me, right? And so I would say if we all started to share the news about an organization like FirstLink and made 211 as ubiquitous as 911 and as known as 911, and we were to talk about these things and have myfirstlink.org on the tip of our tongue, then I think we will have gone one step closer to creating a society that supports all of its people, not just the veterans, but supports all of its people to the degree that our military units did when I was serving. Because think about it, if you are leadership in a military setting, you are thinking about resources, you are thinking about logistics, you are thinking about personnel. You're thinking about, do we have enough pallets of MREs? Do we have enough ammo? Let's think about supply lines. That's what generals and people with stars on their shoulder think about in the United States military or militaries all over the planet. Those are resources, right? And you can't win without resources. Same exists in the battles that we fight day to day. Our people cannot exist or thrive or win without the proper resources. What are the resources in our community? FirstLink has been connecting people to those resources for 50 years. 1.2 million calls and texts in the last 50 years. 1.2 million! That'd make any 4-star general proud. The resources exist. We just need to connect our people to those resources and make sure they know, like I knew in the military, if I had a problem, I could always go to my first sergeant. The wonderful role of a first sergeant in a military unit is the first sergeant sits in the desk next to the commander, next to the colonel, next to the general, next to the lieutenant colonel. The high-ranking individual who represents and runs the squadron or the unit. The first sergeant is an enlisted individual, like I was. And that person is known through the unit. You can always go to the first sergeant, kind of like a human resources type role. You can always go to the first sergeant with any problem that you might have, without fear of reprisal, I think is the word. Without fear of, I don't even know if that's the right word. I use words for a living. Gonna look that one up later. Without fear of get in trouble, right? And so that's the role that I wanted to be like. I wanted to be the person that you could go to if you had a problem. I wanted to be the person you'd go to if you needed resources, if you needed an advocate. And I look at FirstLink as my first sergeant. If I need something, I'm going to go there, right? They exist and they're there 24/7 because I know that I could call Chief Garth Meade 24/7. And let me tell you, Chief Garth Meade lives in Colorado Springs and I hit him up pretty often. Because I'm a civilian now, and sometimes I still need my first shirt. Well, you got a first shirt too. That's what we call it in the military. First shirt, it's really first sergeant. You got a first shirt too. You can reach them at 211. They've been there for 50 years. My point, my friends, is that if we're going to fully support the people that are in our community who need our help, then we need to be talking about the resources that exist. If nobody told me that the first shirt was there for me, how would I know to go? If none of my military members who had been on Hickam Air Force Base for a number of years and knew the lay of the land and knew how to get to the office and knew who to go to, if they wouldn't have told me about those resources, how would I ever known that I could take advantage of them? That's what we need to start doing. If you're sitting at home and you're wondering what you can do to help, you can spread the word about FirstLink. You can start a little fundraiser of your own for FirstLink. You can start promoting on behalf of FirstLink. You can wear a sign on your head that says call 211 and you can put it right here. That's what we Americans have always done in the face of tragedy, and I think it's the thing that we can do now even from our laptops. I'm recording this on a Zoom call, and Jody Bach and FirstLink and everybody else, they're in Fargo. What a world we live in. It is easier now than ever to connect people to resources. If you got a phone, you can dial 211. If you got the internet, you can go to myfirstlink.org. My friends, I believe we live in a time where Charles Dickens' words ring true. It was the best of times, it was the worst of times. But I think not as many people know the next lines that he wrote in that book, A Tale of Two Cities. Or a book or story, I'm not a literary genius. Charles Dickens said, "It was the best of times, it was the worst of times. It was an age of wisdom. It was an age of foolishness." Now, I think today you see a lot of both, and I'm not here to tell you which is which. I'm only here to tell you today what I believe is wisdom, which is an organization called FirstLink, because they have been intelligently putting together resources for the last 50 years for people who need them. To me, when I look at the structure and the format and the accessibility of an organization like FirstLink, I think that is wisdom. We need more of that in our world. And so that's why we've come here today to celebrate an organization called FirstLink who serves a community that I have a heart for, veterans, but also serves a broader community, people. Today I'm here representing veterans across America and the globe, as I do often as the national anthem singer for events such as Veterans Day for the NFL. As I've grown into that role of being a representative for veterans and for America, I've decided to do whatever I can to give issues a voice that may not have one. Because I'm a motivational speaker. I literally get to hold a microphone. And so I'm going to use that microphone to bring to light some of these stories and success stories of wonderful organizations like FirstLink, And if you would do me this honor, I would like to read a letter from a mother of a veteran, and I'd like to give these words a voice. Dear Tom, I've been thinking about how to write you a love letter for days. Trying to put the words on paper isn't easy. There are a million things I could say. There are a million more things I'll never be able to put into words. I can't believe it's been over 6 years since you left me. There are so many things I miss. The strong hugs, the laughs, the way you'd say, "Hey, cutie," when you called and I answered the phone. The Facebook poke wars, the list is endless. You're on my mind constantly, and I still can't believe you're gone. Tom, you taught me so many things. You taught me how to be a mother. You taught me how to love beyond myself. You taught me about selflessness when you signed up for the military. You taught me about sacrifice when you put your life on hold to be deployed. As much as I hated it, your military service turned you into a fine man. You had respect, such respect for me and for others. You make me so proud. I was the lucky one who got to be your mother. 22 years just wasn't enough. Your friends told me you were the one they came to when they needed advice. You were the one who made them smile when they couldn't find a way on their own. You hurt so deeply, but yet you always put others first. I could go on for days about the man that you were. When you first left, I felt like I had to defend you because of the stigma and judgment from others. I was told that you were rotting in hell because you were selfish. I was told that I must not have loved you enough. I know that depression and suicidal thoughts are an illness that needs to be recognized. I know that I couldn't have loved you any more than I do. Now I know in my heart who you were and the relationship that we had. No one can ever degrade that or make it less than it was. It was real and it was ours. My heart breaks a little more every single day I have to wake up without you. We talked about the struggles you faced after you came home from your service in Kuwait. I wish we had talked longer and harder. I lost track of the times you said, "Mom, I've got this." I wish I knew the military had a dirty little secret. I had no idea that suicide among military veterans and active duty soldiers was such a huge problem in this country. Since you've left, I've learned that policemen, firemen, first responders are also leaving us in high numbers. I was so ignorant. It doesn't take a genius to figure out these heroes give everything they have, and the things they have to endure and the trauma they face causes harm to them that we can't see. They deserve so much more after their service. When someone dies by suicide, people choose to remember how they died rather than the heroic lives they led. It's the saddest part of being a suicide survivor. Tom, until you left me, I didn't really understand the stigma and shame attached to mental health problems and suicidal thoughts. It floors me that so many people hurt and have to hide the thoughts and pain they feel on a daily basis. I had two choices when you left. I could curl up and die, or I could use the pain in my heart to help others. I wanted to give you your voice back. I needed to try to help others since I had failed you. Dave and I started a motorcycle ride for you here in Jamestown to recognize that it's okay to struggle and to let people know that they're not alone. The ride to silence stigma will hold its 7th run this year. Hopefully it raises awareness and lets people know hope is out there and that their lives matter. Tom, if I could go back to when you were here and use some of the things I've learned since you left, you might still be here. Looking back, I can clearly see that you were showing signs that you would leave me. Back then, I just didn't know what to look for. Since then, I've learned that FirstLink is available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. I've learned that you could call them when you were feeling alone and needed someone to talk to. I've learned that I could call them myself and they would do a welfare check on you for me. I've learned that you were not alone in your fight, and when I was struggling with trying to find ways to help you, I was not alone in my fight either. So it is so important that people are educated before this happens to them and not after. It's too late after. I had to learn the hard way. When you were struggling, I should have been in the right now with you and met things head on with you. I didn't realize that you couldn't get past that moment in that pain. You couldn't see past today, much less into tomorrow or next week. I've never wanted a do-over for anything in my life as much as this. The realization that education could have helped me save you hits hard. Well, baby boy, I must go. I love you, I miss you, and I'm so proud of you. I hope to see you again one day. It'll be the best day. Love you always. She signed it, Mommy Dearest. Written by Beth Doyle Lout, proud mother of Specialist Thomas Avery Doyle. My friends, asking for help is not weakness. Connecting your friends with resources that can help them in their time of need is not being overbearing. Sharing myfirstlink.org or 211 or calling them yourself doesn't make you any less successful. It doesn't make you any less of a person. It doesn't make you weak. I stand on stage in front of 500,000 people a year. I get to be on TV. I get to lead our nation in our national anthem in front of 70,000 people. I've been on TV and in movies, and my life is crazy. It's awesome. And I have a therapist too. We need these resources because these tears are being shed by a lot of people around the world. Veterans, families of veterans, families of people who are hurting, American citizens. If we support organizations like FirstLink in what I believe to be is a new society, a new America, a new opportunity, not to be opportunistic, but to be caring. I think that this whole pandemic thing is a phoenix rising from the ashes moment for our society and for our world. What if we as citizens could come together and say, you know what? There are good things going on in the world. There's wisdom out there. There's organizations that help. And I know one of them to be called FirstLink. So, what I'd like you to do is I'd like you to support FirstLink. What I'd like you to do is I'd like you to share the word about their resources. What I'd like you to do is I'd like you to take that action. Because I believe that it is an age of wisdom and it is an age of foolishness. And when you would decide in your future who to support, and we may not know who to support in this age of foolishness, Mark J. Lindquist is here to say that your dollars, your time, and your resources are safe with FirstLink. Go to myfirstlink.org, call 211. Donate, volunteer, and share. My name is Mark J. Lindquist. I love FirstLink.
What do we say to that, Mark? I love what you said. I mean, I love so much of what you said, but what you said about the phoenix rising, this is where we are right now. I love that. It's the best of times, it's the worst of times. And you said both are evident, yet here's our opportunity, right? Here's our opportunity to be that phoenix rising. I love that. There's going to be leadership that emerges from this that allows us to be real. Just like you were, just real right there. Real and raw, instead of, you said earlier, feeling like we have to walk on eggshells feeling like we have to be, look for the other shoe to drop. We need resources like FirstLink provides, and I love that you also said to volunteer. I'm telling you, I told you before that this was one of the most powerful experiences of my life to be a volunteer for this organization. I learned so much about myself, which I'd never expected to learn. So I love everything you said, Mark, and I think we're so blessed to have you as an advocate for FirstLink and for our community. And I am so proud of you, my friend, for what you're doing and who you're being in the world. Because that's how this is going. We're going to go forward. So everybody, I told you, my friend Mark was going to be amazing. And I am so proud of you, Mark. So happy to have shared you.
Thank you, my friend. Thank you, FirstLink.
When we lose a loved one to suicide, we're left with many emotions and things we never got to say. Like, I love you. I'm proud of you. You matter. That is why, as we commemorate 50 years of FirstLink, we launched a new initiative called Love Letters. Love letters are messages to loved ones who are no longer with us as a result of suicide. Our goal is that these letters will help friends and family heal after the death of a loved one, as well as provide people who are struggling with thoughts of suicide a source of light and hope.
So I've thought about what I want to say to you ever since I heard you ended your life.
It was almost summertime. I can still remember where I was, what I was wearing, and what I was doing when I got the call. In the many, many Fridays that have passed since then, I've been going over in my mind what I would say to you if you were here.
Why didn't you call me or come to our office to talk? I knew that you knew all about our services, and yet you couldn't reach out for help.
You explained it away. I believed you. I wish I hadn't. One of the hardest parts of grieving for you is bringing myself to accept that I'll never really know why it happened.
I loved hearing you talk about your family and your job, and I could hear how much you cared about them.
You have a grandson now. He's growing so fast. He has your ears, and he has your ability to charm everyone in the room.
I wish you could see how FirstLink has grown. I know we wouldn't be where we are today if it hadn't been for your support and encouragement. But I only wish you'd given us the chance to support and encourage you to live.
Until we meet again, and with all my love, Kate.
So thank you, everybody who was here with us this morning in this weird kind of virtual world we find ourselves. As Mark said, this is the best of times and could be the worst of times, but I choose to look at it as the phoenix rising. This is our opportunity to come together and to support this organization that we all love so much. So Mark, thank you so much for your amazing message. And thank you everybody else for being here today. And with that, I want to throw it back to Cindy and Jennifer.
I would like to give a special thanks to Jody and Mark for helping us with this breakfast. They've done an amazing job of supporting FirstLink, just like all of you. And I want to thank everyone. And here's to 50 more years.